Hello, this is Phil Reinhardt with Alteryx. I just wanted to introduce myself really quick for those of you that are on the line. I am the dedicated support for Boston Pizza, and will be leading today's presentation. Can you all hear me? Do you all can you
Yep.
talk and everything? Okay.
Hi.
Hey, Daniel, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. You know, it's a bit rainy here in Southern California, which is abnormal, but other than that, you know, it's a Lovebirds Day, you know, good old Valentine's Day, and I have the weekend, you know, afoot, so things are good. You?
Things are good. Busy, but good.
That's, you know what? At least it's not. At least things aren't slow, right? Especially in the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
And I have prepared a pretty good presentation, I hope, for you all today. I read your annual report, and I think I have some interesting things to share, and so I'm excited to talk with you all. Let me know. I know there's a couple people that are on the invite and accepted, so let me know when you want to get started.
We could probably get started. Matthew, who I also sent an invite to, unfortunately can't make it today, but I believe Gmail's online. So.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Perfect. So I just want to start off. So again, introductions. My name is Philip Reinhardt. I'm the dedicated support for Boston Pizza from an Alteryx perspective. And so we also have on the line with me my manager, Jack Overman. Jack, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Nice to meet you all. As Phil mentioned, my name is Jack Overman. Been working at Alteryx for about 4 years, so I got a good understanding of the evaluation cycles, enterprise customers, and how they deploy and leverage Alteryx. So just be here in a supportive role in case there's any questions I can answer or context I can provide. But yeah, looking forward to hearing how we can work together.
Great, thanks, Jack. And then also on the line we have NewComp Analytics, and so I work with NewComp a lot especially when I'm working with folks and companies in the Vancouver, Western Canada territory, because NewComp Analytics is our premier partner in the region, and they work with almost every enterprise that we do in the area and have events all the time within the area as well. So if you're looking for some in-person conversations or resources from an Alteryx perspective, we have an event coming up on March 6th that NewComp is going to be hosting in Vancouver. So I wanted to bring them onto the line to give their perspectives and stories from the industry, especially within the Western Canada area. So that's going to be Lucy and Kathleen. Lucy, Kathleen, do you want to give any intros on your side?
Hey guys. So this is Lucy. I'm at NewComp here in Toronto. And I'm an account manager. So as Phil had said, NewComp's an Alteryx premier partner, and we're an end-to-end analytics provider. And we've worked in various industries such as banking, financial services, healthcare, retail, etc. And basically, we help a lot with trading or licensing, as well as providing any services and consulting and implementation stuff. So if you have any questions on that, be sure to let me know. And Kathleen is one of our technical consultants. So if she wants to do an introduction for herself.
Hi, thanks, Lucy. Yeah, I'm Kathleen. I'm also based out here in Toronto. So any technical questions about the tool, working with companies that use it, especially from a Canadian perspective, that's what I'm here for.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lucy and Kathleen. And so, Daniel, would you want to make an introduction from the Boston Pizza side of things?
So I'm Dan LaFleur. I work in the Mississauga office of Boston Pizza. I'm the manager of Insights and Analytics. I work on the marketing team. So I focus mainly on doing different reporting involved with that. But yeah.
Brilliant. And Gurmail?
Yeah, I am in charge of IT here, director of IT for the DI and network team. So work very closely with Matthew and Daniel from the data consumption side, but also with other departments.
Great. All right. Well, nice to meet you, Gurmail. And I think you maybe connected with my colleague Chris Rudin.
Like Chris reached out to me late last year. Unfortunately, I was not able to get back to him. He reached out to me a couple of times before. But yes, like I gave him update that I will be providing him a follow-up update from this meeting.
Brilliant. Yeah, and I was reading your annual report and saw that the IT group is quite focused within the point of sales system and the Boston link and the data warehouse around your analyzing your menu item profitability and your menu item sales volumes and supporting marketing decisions as well. So it sounds like you, Gurmail, and Daniel probably work hand in hand a lot. So I'm happy to have you on the line today. I think we have a lot of different ways that you might be able to leverage Alteryx to do what you're doing there at Boston Pizza.
Yeah, thanks.
Brilliant. And so just to start this off really quick, I wanted to start with this resource that I've made for you all, and you're welcome to share around your teams within IT, Gurmail, or within marketing, Daniel. This is a resource that really compiles everything that we do in the restaurant space. And so Alteryx helps find, open, and maintain profitable restaurants. And this isn't just us saying it, it's happening. So, there's some information here about what we do, and I'll let you read that. But really, it goes into depth into how we're helping blooming brands like Outback Steakhouse, Bonefish Grill, companies like yours. A&W I know is a big restaurant within the Canadian region. Dunkin' Donuts, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, Chipotle, KPMG I know is your auditor. So I threw that in there just so that you can potentially see what they're doing with Alteryx. But anyways, there's lots of other information around how Gartner ranks us and what customers are saying about us within the Gartner Choice Awards. And the trials and other resources around the restaurant industry. But I'll send you this link. I put it in the invite. You all are welcome to use it. And the presentation I share today is also this first asset. So anyways, this is just a really good resource for you all to leverage, after the call and sharing around the organization. Any questions about this or how you access this?
No, I'm good.
Awesome. Give me a second. Ay. Hold on. Come on, PowerPoint. You can do it. All right, here it comes. Sorry about that. All right, yeah. So I want to start off just to kind of give a quick agenda. And most of these points are going to be pretty quick. Wanted to talk really quickly about what companies are doing in the AI, machine learning, predictive, spatial, cognitive types of spaces, prescriptive, and analytics, and then move into what self-service data analytics is and enabling self-service, and then talk about Alteryx. Hopefully, if we have time, we can also jump into a demonstration of Alteryx. If we don't have time, we can save that for another day to see it in action. But today is really just to get a sense of where Alteryx fits and how it can help you all. And then, of course, question and answer at the end. Is that good with an agenda? Do you have anything that I'm missing or would like to add to this?
No, that sounds good for my end.
Okay, awesome. So, like I said, just to start off, where are people in AI, machine learning, and where are people trying to go? So all organizations, if you don't already know, are doing this huge digital transformation thing, and that has become such a buzzword. It's like AI, and so it's like no one really knows what they're talking about, but they really want to go there. And so digital transformation is, though, where every company needs to go, is putting and connecting to their customers in a digital way so that they can ingest more data. And of course, we're putting all of these infrastructures in place to get that digital transformation done. But then, it's like now we have all this data. What do we do with it? And all these investments that we make for digital transformation aren't giving a turnaround on our investment. And so I know that was one of the big priorities for your director, Daniel, within marketing, is doing that digital transformation push. And so now it's a matter of, okay, how do we do data analytics and get real insights out of the data that we're capturing through our digital environment with our customers? And so Alteryx, well, I guess before we get into what Alteryx does, a lot of companies are challenged with the fact that a lot of the data that they're capturing through their digital environment is very dirty and it's very difficult to access, and it's multiple data sources, and so a lot of analysts get stuck in trying to just prep and blend data from the start, and they get stuck down here on these bottom steps, and they're trying to get to the top where there's really dollars associated with the insights, and trying to do loyalty analytics and all kinds of other use cases that might drive the business dollar up, or save dollars somewhere, right? And so this is the journey that everyone's on right now, and so you think, well, who's really doing this? Well, there's lots of companies doing it. They're the heroes of analytics, we call them, and these are the customers that we have, at least some of them, to name a few. And so the Chick-fil-A's of the world, and the A&W's, the McDonald's, and the Blooming brands are just some of the companies that are leveraging Alteryx and finding a lot of value out of what it can provide in terms of a self-service data analytics perspective. So, like I said, I read your annual report, and I saw a lot of different use cases that we could help with. Everything from customer segmentation and marketing, to menu profitability in IT, to HR benefit analysis. I know this was a big risk and challenge for your franchises, to pricing menu balance with your purchasing and distribution, to the drive time and traffic patterns that might influence your franchisee selection. Even looking at guest satisfaction surveys and franchisee employee survey analysis. So, anyways, there's just so many different places that analysis can be done, and there's so many different data sources that come into these use cases. But I just wanted to stop here for a moment. And Daniel, I wanted to better understand from your perspective just some of the data sources that you're working with today, some of the analyses that are top of mind for you this month or this quarter, and this year, and just kind of start there.
For me, a big thing you already highlighted and read there is customer segmentation. That kind of flows into a bunch of different things, but everything you kind of have listed there is very important in terms of getting a handle in it. But it does kind of surround the idea of getting a better understanding of our guests and how we can sort of better serve them. So that kind of involves everything in terms of the loyalty, the numbers, how do you segment the population, demographics surrounding that, and getting more detailed kind of analysis by looking at things kind of at a transaction level as well too. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so a lot of the work that you're doing right now, are you doing this with Excel? Are you using SQL? Is it an Access process, Python? I mean, how are you doing some of the customer segmentation type of projects?
A lot of it's through Excel at the moment, but we're also trying to leverage things like Power BI as well too, and there's access to SQL as well.
Okay, great. And Power BI is a great visualization solution where we are top technology partners with them. So we have native connectors where you can do all of the data munging and manipulation and the predictive analytics and spatial analytics that will go along with customer analysis, and then you can output natively to Power BI. Do you purchase demographic data right now for your customer segmentations?
We're going through a customer segmentation right now, actually. So we're kind of going through a process where we're recreating or we're rebuilding segmentation that we were using beforehand. So yeah, we're just kind of going through a discovery process with it at the moment, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no worries. I mean, so we have partners with Environics and Statistics Canada that can bring those types of data sets to your availability, and they're really easy to work with in Alteryx because we have native connectors with those data sources. So if you're trying to get a better sense of who your customers are, is like I kind of just threw that into the joke, is like where and what men are drinking for hockey, you know, like like trying to get a better sense of like, you know, who is coming from a family perspective, who's coming from a team perspective, and who's coming to your bar, because you have those different environments within your restaurant, and how do you cater to them, and what are they willing to pay, you know, and making sure that the menu speaks to those personas as well. I know that's menu, you know, balance might not necessarily be your realm, but is very still connected to that customer segmentation piece, and is very much going to influence, you know, the other parts of the business.
Yeah, no, we deal. I deal with menu stuff as well too.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah. I have a couple of things in some of those boxes, but yeah.
Gotcha. And so I actually want to stop as well here. Gurmail, is there anything on this slide that stands out that you want to touch on, or talk more about, or ask questions about?
Not at this time, because I think I was more expecting it to be a demo kind of session. So
yeah, I can. Yep, no problem. Yeah, so actually, let me speed through some of these slides, and we'll get that. We'll open up Alteryx. We have an hour, so we have Kathleen on the line with us, and she'll be able to show Alteryx in action. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. And like I said, I'll speed through these. I don't want to bore you. Yeah. So just real quick, you know, self-service analytics is you know, line of business professionals, you know, are enabled and encouraged to perform queries, analysis, generate reports, you know, on their own with minimal IT support, right? And then, you know, and this doesn't mean that self-service is, you know, shadow IT or the rise of data chaos. It doesn't, you know, Alteryx isn't designed to replace, you know, your enterprise ETL platform. It's, you know, it's not a niche analytics tool either. So why is there a need for analytics, or why is there a need for self-service analytics? It's really just because there's so many different tools and different personas, and Alteryx can be a common language that IT, GIS, data scientists, IT DevOps, and business analysts can all use, because it's drag and drop, but also code friendly. So it's just an agility layer that can really connect to a lot of different people. And again, you know, there's these challenges that exist, and like the data sprawl, data's everywhere. There's talent shortage where people don't necessarily know how to speak all these different platforms, and then you have the process integration of being able to connect to all those data sources at the same time. So why Alteryx? So we're on the Gartner Magic Quadrant for data science, machine learning. We're top in execution. Feel free to go out and check that out on our website. We purchased it for people, so you can download it for free. And then of course we're, you know, the Customer Choice Awards as well. We're the gold member on Gartner's Customer Choice. I'm gonna skip this slide. Like I said, I just want to speed through this. So just so you know, Alteryx is a platform, and we're only going to focus on Alteryx Designer. We may touch on some server today. But just know Alteryx is a complete platform, and I want to walk through just a couple pieces of the platform. So first is Alteryx Connect. You can find any asset and have a single source of truth within your data assets in the organization. It's really just a data management platform that also includes a social aspect. So you're able to really curate and identify trusted sources, within your data around the organization. So you have data loaders that go to Connect, Alteryx Connect, and then, you know, analysts can go into Connect and search for the data asset or for the Alteryx workflow and just get, you know, amplified insights on who's who's contributing to a piece of work within Alteryx, and it just supports that self-service spot. So it's just a way to really just connect users to what's going on in the Alteryx ecosystem, but that and beyond. And KPMG is a really big piece of this. They have clients, workflows that are all over the organization, so they wanted to find those. So then, again, we're going to focus on Designer and Server today. And so the 50,000-foot view of Alteryx Designer is that you're able to connect to virtually any data source. So anything with an API, third-party softwares like SharePoint or Salesforce, you're able to connect any flat file, anything with an open database connector, anything with an OLADB. The list goes on and on and on. And then you have Power BI, or you have another source of output like Excel, or back to a CRM, or out to a database. So the challenge of going here to here, like we talked about earlier, is like a multi-step, multi-tool, multi-persona approach. Well, Alteryx can fit in and connect all those data sources, including Statistics Canada and Veronix, Experian, Census, Dun & Bradstreet, TomTom, whatever it might be. And then it can do all the predictive spatial analytics that you want to do on that. So pulling and dragging and dropping a linear regression tool, for example, or trying to figure out how far customers are to the restaurant and optimizing a direct mail campaign, or trying to identify an incentive program, figuring out, okay, if they're 5 miles away, should we give them, I don't know, a $5 bonus? And if they're 10 miles away, should we give them a $10 bonus? So trying to get a better sense of customers and where they exist. And then you can schedule and automate all these workflows, which is really cool as well for operationalized type of efforts. And just know, Alteryx Designer is code-free, but it's also code-friendly. So, like I said, I want to focus on Alteryx Designer, and so I'm going to stop the presentation right after this slide. But just the main point with this slide is that Alteryx Designer goes into Server. Did I hear a question? Any? Okay. Yep. So Alteryx Server allows you to scale, share, and schedule workflows. And so we'll talk about this more if you have any questions, but I want to give Kathleen plenty of time to demo Alteryx Designer. Do you have any questions before we leave the slides and open up Alteryx?
Nope. I'm good.
All right. All right, Kathleen, do you want to take it away and give us a tour?
Yep. Are you guys seeing my main screen here? I'm just
No, we see Skype, and then we see the community at the same time.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I just originally I had things on other screens, but I will just swap that around. All right, so now it's just a internet page. Just the community, right?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a demo of the tool, and it's very casual. I kind of do it like a mini class, kind of showing the different aspects of Alteryx, how to go through it, how to use some of the drag and drop functionality, and how you can use it. So feel free to interrupt me at any point if it's, a tool you see it's kind of interesting, you want more information, too slow, too fast, et cetera, et cetera. So as I usually start, I generally just want to show an overview of the Alteryx tool and how it looks like when you first open it, just so you see kind of where to start, where you can start bringing in that information and how you can start playing around with it. So for example, this is how the interface looks like. And like was talking about, a lot of the functionality is drag and drop. So anytime that you want to kind of bring in some data, start to manipulate it, start to do analysis on it, you'll do so through these icons located at the top of my screen, which are called tools. And each of the tools are located in their own individual palettes. And each palette kind of gives a little clue to what you can do with those tools within there. So for example, my in and out palette, this is where I have all the tools in order to bring in my information and also output my information. And like they were saying in the presentation, there's so many different types of data that could come in. You could connect to a server, ODBC connection, shapefile, or just a flat file. So what you were mentioning in the call is that you're working with Excel a lot. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to bring in a CSV file, and then we're also going to bring in a shape file and manipulate the data a little bit. It's some restaurant information about food, the type of demographic of individuals who take food out for delivery, and then I'm just going to combine it with some regional information to see what region those individuals particularly lie in. So before I jump into that, I just wanted to bring attention to the Alteryx community. So if you're starting to investigate this tool, this is probably the first place I'd recommend that you go. It is very, very, very interactive, and I don't say that a lot, but if you start kind of playing around with the tool and you get stuck somewhere and you have a question, you can literally post it on the site, and a lot of the times individuals will reply with the correct answer, copy of the data, and show you how to do it. Another thing that I wanted to bring your attention to is under the Academy, they have a bunch of free lessons that you can do. And I'm just pointing this out because you mentioned that you were using Excel. So they have some kind of free interactive lessons for Alteryx for Excel users. So essentially, hey, how do I do VLOOKUP? How do I kind of transfer all the information I've been accumulating in Excel over the past 5 or 10 years and translate it into Alteryx? They have some really good step-by-step guides on how to do all that stuff. So I really like the community. It's really good, even if you just like download the trial and start playing around with the tool. Also, what I'm going to mention is you mentioned that you were going to work with Power BI. So I also have the Power BI connector, show you how to get to that essentially, and how you can essentially export everything to show what you need. So, like I mentioned, the interface, and this is how it looks like, and I have the tools. I want to start bringing in some data, bringing in my information. So where I'm going to start is I'm going to use my input data tool. And every time you select one of the tools, there's a little description about what it does and how you can potentially use it. If you want any more information about a particular tool, there's a hyperlink located under it that says Open Example. When I open an example, it essentially takes me to a new tab that shows me a bunch of different ways to connect to a data source. So here, it's an Excel file. It tells you how to connect to a particular sheet or set a record limit, et cetera, et cetera. In addition, if you want more information about the tool, you can always go to the community, or on the top right-hand side of my screen, there's a search bar, and if I want to look for a tool to do a particular task, I can type it in, and it links me to the internet for some help, workflows, or linking right back to the community. So everywhere you turn, there's always somewhere to kind of start helping you out. So I've decided I'm going to bring in my input data tool, and I'm just going to select it and drag it onto this big white workspace, which is called the canvas. So this canvas is where I'm going to start building my workflow. And then on the very left-hand side, I have what's called the configuration window. So this is going to change for each tool that you bring in. This is how you connect to your data or how you transform your data depending on what tool you're using. So on the left-hand side, like I said, I'm just going to connect to an Excel sheet, a CSV file, but I also just wanted to point to your attention that you can also connect to a SQL server or other databases or even some shape files. Or if you want, you can download data from an API. So I just also wanted to bring up one of the Canadian restaurant chains that we're working with is Lone Star, and they're also utilizing Alteryx. So when we bring in that data, we're bringing it in through an API, customer metrics, order details, employee information, etc., cleaning it all up for them. Then we're going to start to do some analysis, etc., etc. Right now, there's some data that's also coming in within Excel files, or even just a direct connection to Access. So we can also do that with this tool.
Hey, Kathleen, I want to just pause really quick.
Yeah.
To ask Daniel a question. Daniel, where are you getting your Excel data? Is it coming through like a SAP, or is it delivered to you via email, or how do you get a hold of it?
I do my analysis in Excel. It comes out of SQL Analytical Services, so
Gotcha.
it's hooked in through that. But yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious, because that probably is another way to do this. You can connect directly to Excel after you've gotten the data dump, or you could connect directly to that system. So there's just an option there. All good.
No, yeah, I understand.
Definitely, yeah. So either way, you want to cook it going directly through there or just connecting to Excel. So here, like I said, I just have a CSV file. And when I select it, also in the configuration window on my left-hand side, I also have a little bit of a preview of the data. I have the first 100 records and what I expect to be loaded in. And what I have here is I have some IDs of customers, I have the amount of money that they spent on delivery, and then I also have some information, statistical information, so income, education, family size, where they live in, if they live in an urban environment, etc. So obviously all this data is scrubbed. I'm not actually showing you like people's incomes and like personal information about them, but just to kind of give an idea of how some of this incoming information can work with, especially if you're working with statistical data. I'm a big advocate for like open data, so I love that Canada has a lot of open data. I usually end up utilizing that stuff in my demos. So the first thing I generally want to do is check the data quality. So when I speak about data quality, I want to see what type of information is coming in. I essentially want to see a summary of all the information, and me looking at the first 100 records isn't really going to cut it. So from my in and out palette, I bring this tool in called the Browse tool. And what the Browse tool does, it essentially goes through each of the fields that are brought in, so each of the columns, and it gives a little summary about all the data. And before I could see what those results are, I just run the workflow, so I just hit the run button on the right-hand side. And a couple of things changed. So where there used to just be a gray area located near the bottom of my screen, now I have all 11 fields displaying and 1,426 records. Also, when I select this Browse tool, my configuration window changes again because it's saying, okay, hey, this is the output for this particular tool, and this particular tool is checking the data quality, meaning saying the, maximum size, how many unique values there are, what's the shortest value, longest value, etc. So for example, my first field that I'm looking at is an ID. I have 1,426 records. I expect to see 1,426 unique records. The other thing I wanted to bring everyone's attention to is one of the fields called family structures. So underneath each of these fields, I have this green bar if everything is A-OK. But for this one in particularly, I have a little bit of a red gap. And this is telling me that a certain percentage of my data is not okay. And it says the reason is because there's some values with leading white spaces. So I can also clearly see that in the data. If I hover over these kind of red triangles, it tells me that my cell has these leading spaces. Not really a big deal for only about 1,500 records, but some of the historical data that I'm working with right now, if you have millions and millions of records coming in and they all have these white spaces in front or behind them, it can make a difference in order to slow things down. So the reason that I would use this tool is to amend something like that, and I can do that with tools from this next palette beside the in and out palette, which is the preparation palette. And this is all the tools that you use in order to essentially start cleaning. So however you do that in Excel, if you're kind of concatenating certain columns or switching them around or changing the names, the preparation palette is where you would do that. And the particular tool that I want to use is this data cleansing tool. So when I drag and drop it in, again, this tool, it's telling me it's cleaning my data, replacing null values, removing punctuation, essentially getting rid of that quote messy data that I see that maybe doesn't come in clean all the time, maybe people type it in by hand, et cetera, et cetera. So the field that I wanted to fix up, and again, you can see that my configuration window changes on the left-hand side, is family structure. And what I want to do is I want to get rid of those leading and trailing white spaces. So I have that selected in my configuration window. I hit run, and then I can see the difference in my data before and after. So another thing I really like about this tool is beside each tool, there's essentially this like fish looking thing. They're called ribbons in and out. So I can see how the data looks immediately before. So notice the red under family structure, and directly after. So all those white spaces are gone for all data. Again, this is for all the records that are displayed. This is a really small data set, but you know, at least it's all fixed up just kind of in one click. And if you have a bunch of other fields that you want to clean up, you can do that as well, whether it be kind of removing punctuation, numbers, or even modifying the case. So making thing upper or lower. Sorry, go ahead.
Gurmail, is this hitting on some of the demo that you wanted to see, or is it resonating? Or
I think Gurmail might have had to go to another meeting.
Oh no,
so,
okay, no
yeah.
problem. Okay, all good. Is this same question for you, Daniel? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's good. I'm honestly very like that's a great functionality. Obviously, I've done my fair share of cleaning,
Yeah.
So that's kind of simplifies the process to a certain extent. But I am kind of most curious about in terms of machine learning and some of the more like automated processes.
Brilliant. Yeah. Kathleen, would that be something we can show today, or?
I don't really have any particular demos on that. Maybe you can talk a little more to them. I was just going to kind of show some of the like just general cleaning functionality.
Do you have any predictive? I see you have predictive new customers as a
Yes,
workflow.
so I could show some of the predictive aspects of the tool for sure, and I could even show you kind of how to connect that to Power BI as well.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, great. So essentially repeating like everything that you would do in order to clean your data. Once it's clean, you essentially want to introduce it into something predictive. So especially with restaurants, you might even want to do like market basket analysis on your menus. So customers who order this are also likely to order this, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess I'll now bring your attention to kind of the right side of where we have our preparation palettes. So we have a bunch of different predictive categories, all with a little R in the icon, meaning that it's utilizing our script. So as Philip said, it's you don't need to know how to code, but it's also code friendly. So if you're interested like me in looking at all this underlying data, then you can as well. And with this predictive analysis, you can essentially prep your data in order to kind of predict things about the future, or like I said, doing some of that market basket analysis. So this workflow that I wanted to show you is predicting new customers. So this is just kind of generic information about current and prospective customers. And again, they use essentially demographic information about the customers. This is like just fake Superstore information. Customers who have shopped essentially before, and then prospective customers. So other customers who have not necessarily become one, but they try to match up in order to find the marketing campaign that's right for them, whether they do kind of predictive grouping or predicting how much that person is going to spend in the future. So I wanted to bring up this one specifically. It's because it utilizes the Power BI connector. So like what was mentioned, oh, I guess I should bring up in the help menu under sample workflows, there is a bunch of different workflows that you can go through that they tell you a step-by-step process of how to kind of introduce certain data and export it at the end. And if you'll notice, one of the sample workflows I have is this Microsoft Starter Kit, which you can download when you have the tool. And what it essentially does, it tells you different ways of, the one I have open here is predicting new customers, fuzzy matching, finding the nearest reseller, and it shows you how to connect to Power BI. I just don't have my Power BI account set up on here, but essentially when you download that connector, you now are able to publish directly to Power BI. So if all the data cleaning that you're doing is within here and you want to output that data visually, then you can just, here I think they have just a box with a link that they've added in order to see, total sales, but again, I don't have it connected there to do that. But before, what they do is they just bring in here particular Excel sheets, they clean up the data using formulas. As you know, data prep is essentially 70% of what you need to do before you introduce it into predictive modeling. Mm-hmm. And if you're working with any type of predictive model, this, for example, is linear regression, then you know that you would have to kind of be mindful of what you're trying to introduce. So even though the underlying of this linear regression model is using R script, the only thing that the user will see upon input is what's their target variable. In this case, it's total sales. And what are the predictor variables? So in this case, it's marital status, gender, yearly income, total amount of children, number of children of home, if they're a homeowner, the number of cars they own, and the age. So what this tool does then is it takes all that information from the prospective customers and compares it to the information from the new customers and essentially creates a score or a model to see what is the predictive total sale for those prospective customers. And what you can always do is run a model on your current, you run a model on your current customers in order to get that prediction for your prospective ones, but you can also run it back against just a fraction of the current ones to see how accurate it is. So that's for particularly looking at sales, but if you're looking at something like grouping, predictive grouping, this restaurant data I've actually used before to look at grouping when I was looking at essentially what demographic of data would I want to send out a marketing campaign for, right? So we have age, education, family structure, and region. So just from looking at this information in particular, I always say this I went to a university in Guelph, and it's a suburb. It's a university and it's a suburb. So it's families and then it's students. And there's so many pizza places. There's a 3-for-1 deal pizza, and there's only 2 types of flyers that got sent out. One was 3 extra large pizzas for $19.99 for students for the Godzilla deal, and the other one was for all the families that lived around there with small kids. They were 2 mediums, 10 chicken wings, and healthy and more expensive. So you essentially have the ability to look at all the customer information and create those kind of groups and clusters in order to start doing that type of basket analysis, who you want to advertise to based on some of the previous customer information as well. They also have time series. Their time series models are really cool as well, just essentially looking at historical information and what you would kind of predict for the next year too. Do you have any questions on any of that?
No, not really at the moment. I guess for me, there's a couple of different priorities. There's one making data analysis kind of accessible. So, for me to do kind of certain analysis pieces, I can do them fine, but it's kind of putting that information in the hands of, the everyday person so that they can kind of access it. So if I wanted to set up like templates as an example, like a post campaign mortem, right? Or if someone's entering in information or anything like that, is that easy enough to do in this? So I can have something that's kind of a preset tool to allow people to kind of go and do, and we'll have like a standardized output for them to kind of review performance as an example, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I can actually take that first. So you can build out. There's a couple things. So first of all, if they have an Alteryx designer and they're building workflows, and you have like a workflow that you just want them to reuse, yes, absolutely, you can do it that way. Or if you want to expose a analytic app, which is basically just like building a workflow and then making it into like a browser interface, that's more or less like a survey, really. And so they just complete the survey, they answer the questions, and then they get an output. That output can be in any format. So it can be in like a Power BI format, it can be in an Excel format, it can be in a PDF or like a dynamic report even. So like, for example, you have companies like Dunkin' Brands, right? Or like A&W. So they have store data from all their retail locations across Canada, A&W does, and it's sent to one of their teams. This guy's named Tony. Tony gets his data there every morning, and so his team has his team of 3 has to be able to use Alteryx to clean, transform, analyze all that data, and then send it out the results to like individual franchise owners the morning of each business day. So they have an automated workflow that runs, and then all of the managers of each franchise just go into this browser interface. They pick their store, basically, again, that survey kind of format. They pick their store, and then they pick, February, because they just want February, and then they'll click run, and they'll get a PDF telling them all about their store and their profitability and their, margins and inventory and all that good stuff that they need to know. The same thing happens at like Dunkin' Brands, where they have they're trying to get information to their franchisees in a timely manner, but it doesn't have to be just like a franchisee format. It can be someone like on your marketing team who just needs to have the insights so that they can make their decisions. So
I get what you're saying. The reality is for me, kind of one of the problems I see here, it has to do with the multiple levels, and certainly we have those same types of reports that we actually have go out to them currently. But it's also kind of like cross-functionally for us as well too, in terms of if I build a predictive model in terms of the type of customers that would be potential customers for Boston Pizza as an example, and the operations team is thinking about building a new store, it's like I need them to be able to tap into that information, so to speak, and then they can use like your shape files like Esri or something like that, or your demographic information from StatsCan to go in and say, is this a good location? And that's one of the really beneficial pieces of Alteryx, where they would also have an Alteryx designer, or at least theoretically, right? And they could integrate the work they're doing in Esri into the spatial tools of Alteryx, and then hook that up to the predictive tools that you have built for them. And so you could package up that predictive workflow, send it over to them, and then they could attach it to their spatial workflows, and you could get you could basically give them that insight in a spatial predictive format, basically. Yeah. Like, would that be like a live connection, or would it be like essentially that they would run that analysis, because that information realistically could update kind of on a consistent basis as like things move and change, right? So you could do two things. You could either have that you could have a gallery app, like that analytic app concept, where you give them the survey, they're able to run it from the browser, and then they get their output, and then they upload it into their spatial workflow. And they could like literally just do that self-service. So whenever they need the data, they just click and run it. Or if you wanted to build it out in a live connection, then you could have the workflow connected to their spatial data and have the predictive analytics all in one workflow, and it's just running it on like a regular basis, however often you need it to run. Or you can connect through. So we have this set of tools called the runner tools, which basically calls on it calls on other workflows. So one workflow will call on another workflow. So if you had a predictive workflow run, then like it potentially could call on the
spatial workflow. You could do it live. You could also do it self-service. It's really up to you how you would want to set it up. But it's probably likely that both groups would have to be using Alteryx for you to be able to really take advantage of it.
We would need kind of like multiple licenses for each group individually.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because it's a per user license. Yep.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
But that's no problem. You can get organizations will start off with an enterprise. Give a bunch of people different a bunch of organizations or parts of the organization access to Alteryx, and then you can build all this out.
It's very interesting. It seems like a really simplified version of analysis, which is kind of fantastic for sort of what I think some of the main goals for the organization are. A lot for me to take away.
Kathleen, do you have anything to? It seems like as I was talking, you were like, I want to show this, and now Phil's talking about this, and I want to show this. Sorry to talk all over the place.
So exactly what you were saying, it's like a really simplified version of it, but it could be as complicated as you want it to be. So from the sounds of it, it sounds like you are the person who kind of understands all the underlying kind of predictive aspects of things, but you want to limit trying to. So the thing that I just wanted to show is how you can essentially set up what you were talking about. So you have your own kind of predictive model or spatial model, market basket model, whatever you want, but you have some members of your team who are just going to connect their data and want to see the output at the end. So what I was showing you here with these predictive tools, you can actually condense that all and put it in a macro. And what a macro is essentially it's just a kind of combination of all those more complex tools. So here I have an R script written in, some kind of predictive tools written in there. So this is what you would see as the developer, or whoever the developer is, kind of sets up what the end users are allowed to put in. So here's just a standard error model, and that's been put into a macro. So within this icon, you can literally make this icon whatever you want, is all the complicated underlying data, but all the person is going to see, all that user is going to see is the information that they want brought in, and the only prompts that come up are the prompts that you want them to see. That's what Philip was also talking about with the app. So if you have, this is someone has the workflow license because they're running it in Alteryx, but imagine kind of this being on your Alteryx server gallery, on the interface. Whoever your team is would be okay, I'm choosing this city, this information, click run. This is all they see is these questions, and then all they get at the end is the answer there.
And then
So I was just clicking through to kind of show how you could really get the best of both worlds depending who wants to see what.
Yeah. And you can bolt on all your spatial tools after that too. We connect with Esri, so if you wanted to throw in some spatial geocoding addresses on top of the predictive tools that are going on under that macro, then they can just keep building. So it's almost I like to use the analogy you might build a race car, and that's the macro, and then someone else is going to be building a rocket ship out of your space car or out of your race car. Jeez, I can't talk. But yeah, no, there's a lot of different functionality there. Does that make sense, Daniel?
Yeah. I think I have a pretty good understanding. Well, I've seen enough to kind of get how it sort of operates.
50,000.
It seems like there's an incredible amount of flexibility in the program, actually, which is great. I have to kind of take it back at this point and sort of decipher the information and sort of regroup with people on my side as an example to try and understand, what's our use case for it, sort of how does it fit into the equation, and then kind of go from there. Right?
Don't overthink it. I think that's one of the biggest failures out of the gate for new people that are looking at Alteryx. Pick a couple of data sets that you just want to see the power of Alteryx with. And what we do is a guided trial. So we can come on site and do a half day if you want to do that, or we can just keep it to virtual. But basically we take those couple data sets and we guide you through building out your workflow. And just so you can see the power of it, and you can get really the feel for and comfortability with Alteryx. And we have a 14-day trial, so typically during those 14 days, you'll be able to build out a use case with those data sets, and you'll have a very good understanding of how it's going to help you by the end of that period. And like I said, if we want to do something on site just to really kind of cement your understanding, we're happy to do that. I'm happy to come up from Southern California.
And I live in Mississauga, so it's
perfect.
Exactly, and we'll be in the area. Like, we're going to be in Vancouver on the 6th. So I mean, the help and the getting started piece is really it's a lot easier than you think. Like, I think when you find, okay, I want to do a customer segmentation. These are my 3 data sets. Okay, show me how to do it. We'll give you Alteryx. I'll send you the trial. You get to download it, and then we'll share your screen, and we'll walk you through building out your first workflow. So it's not nearly as difficult, I think, as some people believe.
Yeah. No, I understand. I just, to be just completely honest with you, is that I'm at a stage with these. I haven't been here for a very long time, so I've been sort of trying to get to learn the data sets that we have. I'm very much at a stage of we need kind of more, and they're sort of adding in things. So I think this could be a very useful tool to kind of leverage stuff. But at the same time, I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done sort of before we get to something like this as well too, behind actually making sure that all of our data connections and informations that we have set up. It's good to know that you guys have certain things that I've been telling them that they should get, kind of like your stat scan information. And as an example, I think it's very useful stuff. So it's good to know that that's sort of in there. That within itself can provide a solution. It's just a matter of convincing key stakeholders that it's necessary.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious before you go, in terms of some of the things that you feel like you need to get it set up first. Is that a matter of getting access to the data? Is that the challenge?
No, it's not access. It's we've come across where they've added on recently tokenized data as an example. So it's a matter of for that is just making sure that it's functioning properly. So there's going to be a whole QA process where we're kind of looking at. To give you an example, I had a call today with a few people about how some of the information that we're getting appears to be incorrect, as an example, and that it needs to be fixed. So it's kind of at the very start of the QA process to make sure that our information that we're receiving is right, and it's kind of cleaned up as well too in terms of what it is, and for us to do that on our side, sort of have a good understanding of how those systems work. And then as well too, there's a couple other key data sets that even just tracking weather properly, as an example, it would be very useful for a company like this, right? So
yeah, it definitely impacts your income.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Go out. Yeah. Okay, interesting. And that's something that we may be able to help with, or at least I have had people do. Also, in terms of I guess just a tentative timeline, are you think we'll be able to sync back up and work or talk about a use case within February, or is this something that would happen more in March, or what are you thinking?
Probably more in March, later March. To be completely honest, over the next couple of weeks, it's sort of focusing on some of those things I just sort of mentioned. On top of the fact that I'm going to be gone for a few weeks as well too, at the start of March. So it probably wouldn't be until later the second half of March or something that I could see any movement on this, at least from my side. I do know that Gurmail, as an example, he's sort of explored this tool beforehand, and so I know that he has an interest in it as well too. So I don't know where his mind's at. He might reach out independently from his side if he wants to kind of move forward with it as well too.
Right. Okay. All right. Sounds great. Yeah. We'd love to work with him as well. I think I have a Anyways, all right. Great. Well, I'll follow up with. You should have the link to that Point Drive presentation that has pretty much all the information we shared today. The recording to today's conversation I'll put in there as well. I'll put in the documents about how we partner and sell at a discounted rate the Canadian data, like Statistics Canada and Bronix, things like that. So I'll put that documentation in there. And then yeah, if for any conversations you have with your executives, if you need any of the resources, just pull it all from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if anything comes up or whatever, maybe I'll definitely send you an email if there's any other questions or whatever it is. But yeah, I just kind of have to socialize.
Yeah, no, for sure. And two other things. I mean, like, as a next step, like, we've got that Vancouver event on the 6th of March, so that might be a good, next thing to take some people to, just to kind of be like, hey,
Yeah, that Gurmail and his entire team is out west, so if
cool, okay,
they're probably the best ones to go to something like that. Whereas I might not even be in the office during that time.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, and then the other thing is, as typically what a next step is outlining that use case. So we have a document that we use, just a FYI, just so you know. It's something that I'll send you over, and when you kind of come up with that use case in March, that'll be the thing that we'll complete and use as a thing before we jump on a call and build out your first workflow. So anyway, sure. That's it.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Lucy. See you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.